July 20th is celebrated as the country's cry of independence, although the process, in reality, did not cease until 1819, with the triumph of Simon Bolivar over the royalist troops. Sometimes, seemingly insignificant events can lead to major conflicts. Such was the case on the day that marked the beginning of Colombia's independence, the trigger of which was, though not in isolation, a vase. What happened on July 20, 1810, in the home of José González Llorente in Santa Fe, present-day Bogotá, was the final straw for a sector of the Creole elite who had long yearned to break free from Spanish rule and achieve equality between Americans and Spaniards. Inspired by the independence movements that were awakening in America, which had already been successful in the United States, 1775 to 1783, and Haiti, 1791 to 1803, the people of New Granada took advantage of the weakness of the Spanish Empire due to the Napoleonic invasions and the health crisis in the peninsular territory due to smallpox and yellow fever to carry out the process of independence of the then-called Viceroyalty of New Granada. The situation on the continent prior to the war, which lasted from 1810 to 1819 and culminated in the creation of Gran Colombia by Simon Bolivar, was tumultuous. Specifically in New Granada, discontent and tension were heightened among the Creoles, children of Europeans born in the Americas who demanded the same rights as Spaniards in governing and paying taxes. But they were not the only ones who participated in the rebellions that led to the cry for independence. Afro-descendants and indigenous people also took sides according to their own interests. And so, July 20, 1810 was the day the act was signed, although the independence movement had been brewing since the end of the 18th century, with greater intensity since the rebellion of the Comuneros, 1781, and with clear inspiration from the Enlightenment document translated into Spanish by Antonio Nariño, the Declaration of the Rights of Man, 1795. What happened on July 20 in Colombia? Beyond the Llorente vase incident, the rivalry between Americans and Europeans was not only happening in New Granada, but in practically all the colonial territories of America, which caused widespread discontent, especially among the Creole elites, who sought to reach high positions in the administration and boost their economy through trade. On the morning of that Friday, a market day when the streets of Santa Fe were bustling, Councilman Antonio Morales devised a plan to serve as a pretext for instigating a revolt. The strategy involved going to the shop of José González Llorente, a renowned Spanish merchant, to ask him for a vase to decorate a banquet dedicated to Antonio Villavicencio, the man appointed by the Spanish to form a local junta in New Granada. Whether he agreed or refused to lend the item, the pent-up tension among the Creoles was bound to explode, and that day was chosen. Fulfilling the expectations of Morales and his followers, Llorente refused to proceed with the loan and displayed great contempt for Villavicencio and all the Americans, Creoles. Thus, the Spanish merchant's words sparked a physical altercation that culminated in a popular uprising against the Spanish. During the social unrest that occurred on that same date, the Act of Independence of Colombia was signed by 40 Creole representatives, among them Antonio Morales, the first envoy of Colombia to the United Provinces of Central America, Camilo Torres, the intellectual who wrote the Memorial of Grievances, 1809, a key text in the political thought of the time that exposed the need for equality between Spaniards and Americans, and José Acevedo y Gómez, a military man who led the riots of July 20 and was nicknamed the Tribune of the People. However, that day marked neither the first nor the last cry for independence in New Granada. The truth is that each region of present-day Colombia had a distinct independence process. In Cartagena, for example, this milestone is commemorated on November 11, 1811, while in Cali, Buga, and Socorro, the rebellions began much earlier. How is Independence Day celebrated in Colombia? Today, Independence Day is celebrated with military parades and cultural events throughout the country, though most intensely in the capital. However, it's important to note that achieving independence was not solely the result of Simon Bolivar's military success in 1819, but also of the civic will of Creoles, Afro-descendants, indigenous people, and women to change the status quo. In this context, the Battle of Boyacá took place on August 7, 1819, in Tunja, lasting only 2 hours. The liberating army not only had more men than the royalist troops, but also higher morale and a greater commitment to their cause. Furthermore, the local inhabitants actively participated in the battle, and their support was crucial to achieving the victory that, in this case, did indeed culminate in the end of Spanish rule over New Granada, which from then on would unite with Venezuela, Ecuador, and Panama to form Gran Colombia. Thus, on Colombia's Independence Day, the victory of Colombian Americans over the Spanish Empire is commemorated, an empire that would come to an end 88 years later with the loss of its last colonies in the Americas, Cuba and Puerto Rico. And although the Llorente vase became a symbol of the Colombian Revolution, and even gave its name to the Museum of Independence, Casa del Floro, it is not the focus of the current celebrations taking place both within and outside the country. Rather, that honor belongs to aguardiente, arepas, and cumbia.